I originally was going to make this video all the way back in May, but things kept changing, so I waited until things stayed kind of the same. So here's where we're at now. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel and to another video. This is our final non-exactly Demon Slayer related video before Demon Slayer month, which will be the month of September on this channel. I'm obviously still going to be discussing Demon Slayer in this video because this is my top 10 animes, but this is more just like about my top 10 animes. And a quick disclaimer, this has changed a lot and it continues to change, and this is just based off of my love for the anime. This is not based off of how well written I think it is, how interesting it is, it's just based off of how much I love it, which is completely subjective because I'm my own person. So if your top 10 animes is completely different than mine, that's fine. But before we dive into today's video, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment your top 10 animes. And I wrote my top 10 down on the Notes app on my phone, so I'm gonna be referring to it. I also, I put like little thought processes in parentheses next to each ranking, so that will help me kind of explain why it's where it is. But it's very small, so I'll explain it to you and then I'll tell you what I wrote down, because I think I'm kind of funny. Probably I'm not that funny, but who knows? Now, before we get into my top 10, there are two honorable mentions that I just wanted to bring up really quick because I do really love these animes. They just didn't, I couldn't fit them into the top 10 because there are 10, and that is My Happy Marriage and Dandadan. I love both of these shows for very different reasons, and they're both very, very, very good, have made me cry, have made me laugh, have made me sit on the edge of my seat. But when it comes to my top 10, I just felt like the 10 that are in the top 10, I like just a little bit more, but these two, I couldn't not mention that I like them. So, coming in at number 10 is Medalist. This one is very personal to me. The anime itself is a very basic sports anime, I would say. The thing is, this is an anime that is genuinely about my sport and what I love to do on the day-to-day basis. And it does a very good job at depicting realistic things that happen in the skating world. Is it perfectly realistic? No, it is an anime after all. I'm not expecting it to be a one-to-one comparison of what being a figure skater at the age of 11 like Inori is to a T. However, they do a very, very good job at explaining how figure skating is a very young sport where people think that if you don't start when you're 3, 4, 5, that you're just never gonna make it, and dealing with how to overcome that. And on top of that, it just made me very emotional because I saw a lot of myself in Inori when I was watching it. Now, a lot of you who are on my channel now actually joined me because of my reaction to that series. So I'll put the playlist in the description if you want to see it. I talked about each anime episode. I gave you the perspective of a figure skater, and I'm gonna be doing that about season 2 as well. So this one made my top 10 mostly just because of how personal this show is to me, and the fact that it also inspired me to get back into competitive skating after going back and forth about whether or not I was gonna do that for a long time. So it just holds a very special place in my heart at number 10. Coming in at number 9 is Bungo Stray Dogs. Now this one's actually a bit interesting because it made it all the way into my top 3 at one point. However, this was one of the ones where my love for it faded a lot faster than some of the other animes that I've watched after I caught up with it. I do really, really enjoy it. I mean, it's in my top 10, so obviously that means it's very good. I've watched over 50 animes, so being in my top 10 means that I really, really care about this show. I love the characters, I love the story, I love the animation, just like the backdrop animation of like sunsets and everything. So beautiful. The power system to me is interesting. They do a good job at fleshing it out. I think for me, the reason why it ended up falling down to 9 when it was in my top 3 is because I just can't fall in love with the main character that much. And for me, when it comes to really enjoying a show, I have to be all in on the main character because the story at the end of the day is about them. So if I find the main character to be bland compared to the secondary cast, it'll kind of drop down in the ranks a little bit just because I don't feel as invested in the show. In fact, Atsushi was one of the only characters that I had never heard of before watching the show. And I don't think he deserves to be forgotten in the way that he does. I still think he's a good character, and I love his dynamic with Akutagawa. Like, that's my favorite dynamic in the show, but I wish there was just a little bit more. So that's why it finds itself in 9th. Coming in at number 8, and this might trigger some people based off of what's above it, but I can't make any apologies for how much I just enjoy a show. And 8 is going to Frieren. Frieren, I really, really, really enjoy. I don't have many things that I dislike about it. However, there's just something about it that's missing. I don't know what it is. It could be just the fact that I've only seen the 28 episodes of the first season and that's it. There's just something that I want more of. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it'll get there, but it still is a really good show. I love the layering of the flashbacks and the present timeline. I think that Frieren is probably the show that has handled that the best of any other show that I've watched. In fact, I feel like a lot of animes, even something that I rank higher than Frieren, sometimes the way they layer the flashbacks in, it just kind of takes you out of the present moment and it takes a while to get back into it. But Frieren, it's almost like the past timeline is just as important to the story as the present timeline, and I find that so interesting. Also, the note that I have on here, it says, the characters are just chef's kiss, and I agree. I find all the characters to be very layered and very interesting. I think Stark is a better representation of fear and anxiety than a certain character in my favorite anime, which we'll talk about a little from now. It's not that I think that it's like a competition of this anxiety character is better written than this anxiety character. I just prefer they wrote Stark over the way this other character is written. So yeah, I think the only reason Frieren is down this low is simply because I haven't seen enough of it to rank it higher than that, which I would say most of the shows that are above it, I have more content of, or if it's around the same, it's just there's something about it that I really latch onto. Coming in at number 7 is Haikyu. This is another one that did climb, I think all the way up to 4th and then dropped a little bit after I saw some other shows. However, Haikyu really surprised me. I watched the first episode a while ago and didn't have that much interest in it because I didn't think I would be that interested in a sports anime, because this was probably the first sports anime I watched outside of Yuri on Ice, which was my first anime. And for the record, I watched Haikyu long before I saw Medalist. So I wasn't expecting to be as invested as I was, but as I watched through Haikyu, I was hardcore invested. I was crying by the end of season 1. I was jumping out of my seat when they were winning things and beating teams that they couldn't beat before. I was full stop in. And I honestly think one of the only reasons why it's dropped down to 7 is that some of the ones above it have a little bit more recency bias, and sometimes recency bias just plays a part in your current top 10 animes. But what I wrote down simply was, those are all my sons. I love every single character in that show. They're all very precious to me. I would definitely want to be in some kind of coaching capacity in the Haikyu world, even though I know nothing about volleyball, although I know more now that I've watched the show. And that's what I really love about it. I just genuinely love all the characters. And at the end of the day, if I genuinely love the characters and I genuinely love the main character a lot, it's gonna be high on my list. Number 6. I'm not gonna say the name yet. I'm just going to read you what I wrote down, and it said, creeping into hyperfixation territory, I'm in danger. And this one is Naruto. Fun fact, if you haven't noticed, I have been doing a series of videos about Naruto as I watch it for the first time, because I'm currently in the middle of Shippuden. And it did take a while to breach my top 10, because for a while it was just kind of like, it's very good. There wasn't anything that really jumped out at me. But once I got to freaking the arc where Itachi's truth comes out, and then we had the Pain Assault arc, it was not just top 10, it was close to being top 5, and I could see it becoming top 3 in the future. Now, this is partially because I've had so much time with the characters, even though I still got a long ways to go, but I do find so many characters that I genuinely love and adore. I've sobbed, I've laughed, I've done pretty much every emotion that you can think of watching this show, and it's not over yet. But as the show progresses, the more and more invested I become, and I only see that continuing to get more and more intense for me. My goal is to finish it before the end of the year. Fingers crossed I can do that, because Demon Slayer is about to come out, and I know that's gonna take over a lot of my mental capacity. But it truly is creeping into hyperfixation territory. I am in danger, but we'll see how that goes. We'll see how it ends. And we'll see if I watch Boruto afterwards. All right, now we're into our top 5, and coming in at number 5 is the Apothecary Diaries. This one is an anomaly for me because it does not check off really any of the common boxes to become such a high-ranked anime for me, but there's just something about it that I can't look away, and I just want to talk about it. I would say this one also, I should put the note of creeping into hyperfixation territory. I'm in danger, even more so than Naruto. I love the dynamic of Jinshi and Mao Mao, but I also love that the story is not revolving around that. Like, yes, I don't tend to be a fan of slow burn, but the way the story is working, where it's really about solving crime within the Imperial Palace, and their slow burn romance is just a very well done side plot. I think because it's a side plot and it's not the main part of the story, that's what helps me be able to handle the fact that it's a slow burn. But the music is amazing, the character design is amazing, I love Mao Mao. I love that it's a really great show that has a main female lead who is smart, and she's so smart that she can seem dumb at times, but the thing is, when she's dumb, that's actually her being smart and choosing to be ignorant to something that she knows if she understands that might come back to bite her in the future. But she's also just really silly, like she's like a cat, and she has this desire to constantly do things that makes everyone confused because she wants the poison and that sort of thing. I just love that dynamic. I love Jinshi. I think he's so funny. He is totally a green flag of a character, by the way. A lot of people try and say that he's a red flag, and I think that when you put yourself into the perspective of the fact that this is essentially Imperial China and that he owns Mao Mao, he literally bought her, he is the greenest of green flags, that he doesn't just force her to do whatever he wants. The character dynamics, the story development, everything about the show is so freaking good. I love it, so that's what makes it number 5. Number 4, and this is one where my note is go watch it now, and it is the case study of Vanitas. This is another one where it's just kind of an anomaly where it sits because the story doesn't check off a lot of my usual hyperfixation boxes, but without spoiling, the very first episode reveals a very big plot point that won't be revealed probably till the end of the story. And there's something about the way that they did that just has me in a chokehold with the story. First things first, the voice acting. The animation is gorgeous. Case Study of Vanitas is about humans and vampires that are kind of against each other, but the two main characters are a human and a vampire who find themselves in a very interesting friendship. All of the cast of characters I love. I find them all very interesting. The story is also one of those drip feed stories where you don't really know what's happening most of the time, but as you progress through the story, you're like, oh, that makes sense. I actually recently finished reading the manga on the story, and I will also add, the manga is a lot better than the anime. I will be totally honest. In fact, the anime took out some information from the manga that I feel like is way too integral to the plot to do so, but I digress. It's a show that's very hard to explain, and it's hard to explain why I love it. I just need you to go watch it to understand, because it's super underrated. It's got good action sequences, it's got a good plot, it's got interesting characters, and I can't really complain about anything. All right, we're getting into the serious stuff. Top 3. Coming in at number 3 is Fruits Basket. And in my note I said, oh my god, I was not prepared, because truly, I was not prepared. Going into watching Fruits Basket, I knew people cried over it, but I thought it was literally like just a romance anime that, you know, maybe tugged at your heartstrings a little bit. You know, I was thinking more along the lines of, well, no, I wasn't. Your Lie in April. which I can't put Your Lie in April in top 10. I guess shout out to Your Lie in April. It's a very good show, but there's no way it's ever gonna find itself in my top 10 because that is actually hard to watch. It's so sad. Fruits Basket surprised me. Again, it was a very slow burn anime, which I usually don't love slow burn, especially in the case of Fruits Basket where the romance was still the main plot of the story. It also had a love triangle, which I hate, notoriously hate love triangles. But for some reason, the way Fruits Basket was written, I never felt annoyed about the fact that it was a slow burn or that there was a love triangle. First of all, this story deals heavily with family trauma in multiple ways, and it's like a gut punch often. This is another show that had me like hiccuping on the couch with my sobs, trying to hold it in and not able to, at least 6 times in season 1. I think I cried through every single episode of the final season. It's got fantastic voice acting, it's got very interesting characters, and kind of there's a level of magic to it that when I first was introduced to it in the first episode, I was kind of like, what? But it just became so integral to the story and so interesting and so well thought out that I was hooked. Fruits Basket is truly the one where I wish I could experience it for the first time again, because that was a magical, emotional experience. And Toru is right up there in my favorite characters of all time. She is such a sweet character who is very giving, very selfless, and so loved by the entire cast and doesn't even realize it and doesn't even try. And I just, I just love Toru so much. And Kyo's character development was some of the best character development I've ever seen. So yeah, watch Fruits Basket if you haven't. But bring tissues. Have tissues nearby at all times. All right, we're now into the final 2. Coming in at number 2 is Attack on Titan. Now I'm gonna wait to read you the note until I go over my first one, which you should all know what my first favorite anime is. Like, this is not gonna be any surprise to you. Attack on Titan is actually the very first anime that I watched to watch anime that made me get into anime. There's really nothing bad to say about it. The plot is so interesting, the characters are well developed, it is a very emotional story that I've sobbed multiple times over. I honestly think the only reason that it is in second is I personally don't find the cast as lovable as the cast of my favorite show, and that is completely subjective. It is simply based off of what I enjoy out of a character. Attack on Titan just doesn't match up quite as much. But Attack on Titan at one point was as much of a hyperfixation for me as my current favorite is now. The character dynamics are very interesting, the animation is great, the soundtrack is the best. I love the soundtrack for my favorite anime, but the soundtrack for Attack on Titan will always be number 1. It is so freaking good. I think one of my only issues with it is I don't really like the main character, and I will always prefer a show where I'm 100% behind the main character over a show where I'm not. So that's your main reason why it's not number 1. I also think the ending was very good. I don't think it was the best ending that it could have been, but I also don't think it was trash. I think it was a very good ending to a very good show. Overall, it's like a 9.5 type of show for me. Like, it just is up against my favorite one, which is, of course, Demon Slayer. Demon Slayer is my favorite anime, obviously. Now, I put in parentheses next to Attack on Titan, why hate one of these when you can love both? Because let me take you back to early 2022. The timeline was Demon Slayer mornings on Sunday and Attack on Titan afternoons on Sunday. This is the brightest timeline for me. I freaking loved Sundays for, I think it was like a month and a half or 2 months, because Attack on Titan started in January, but Demon Slayer ended in February. So it was only like a month-ish that they were running at the same time. But we got some banger episodes in the same day. And the fact of the matter is, I was having the time of my life. People were fighting on social media. No, Demon Slayer's better. No, Attack on Titan is better. And I was sitting there like, why have this argument when you can just enjoy both and just have a great Sunday? Like, I don't get it. But anyway, that was like my favorite timeline. There still has yet to be a timeline that I feel like was as exciting as Demon Slayer and Attack on Titan Sundays. I'm not gonna lie. But at the end of the day, Demon Slayer checks all of my boxes. Tanjiro is my favorite character in all of media. He is the exact type of character that I tend to lean towards loving. Aang is my second favorite character of all time in media. They are very similar. They are kind, sweet boys who don't have to change a lot in the course of their story. Their development is about different things like becoming stronger, accepting their duty as whatever they are, and that sort of thing. Tanjiro has his flaws. He's not moral Jesus. He can be selfish. He can be angry. He can see red. He has these issues. He can be indecisive, but he tries to always be the best version of himself that he can be. And it's very natural for him. It's just who he is. I love him. I'm very invested in his story. I want him to succeed. And I just find the rest of the cast to be very lovable and very interesting for me. Again, this is just my opinion. I'm not saying this is as objective fact. There are flaws within the story that I can admit to. There's definitely things that I wish were different. I brought up in Frieren that I prefer Stark over another character, and that is I prefer him over Zenitsu. They both represent these characters that are very scared. They don't believe in themselves. They have a lot of anxiety. The way they write Stark in Frieren, I prefer over the way Zenitsu is written in Demon Slayer, because I feel like Zenitsu often is the victim of just extreme tropes, when he could be a lot more than that, while Stark isn't. Again, that's not just me saying that I think that Stark is objectively better written than Zenitsu. I think it's just, for me, I prefer the way they do Stark. So I still have those critiques of Demon Slayer. It's not perfect. It just matches what I love. I just get so much joy out of watching it, even though it makes me sob like a baby, and this Infinity Castle trilogy is going to be rough for me, okay? Like, it's gonna be rough. I love the shows that I'm so into it that I sob over character deaths and that sort of thing, so that's how you can kind of know that I'm actually really into it. But I can't really do it justice just talking about it as my favorite anime. It just checks all the boxes for me. It's got beautiful animation, amazing voice acting. The music in it is stunning and so well done. It's only second to Attack on Titan. It has a main character that I just love and adore, so I am invested in the story as a whole since the story is about him and his perspective of things. I just love it. I just enjoy it. It's my show. It is my show that whenever I just want to turn on something that I know I'm gonna enjoy, I turn on Demon Slayer. So that is number 1. But that is my top 10 animes. Again, this is based completely off of my own feelings and just my enjoyment out of a show. This is not based off of writing. This is not any objective fact. This is me as a human being telling you what my top 10 favorite animes are. What are your top 10 favorite animes? Let me know in the comments below. But that is gonna be it for today's video. If you liked it, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment your thoughts. Also, if you wanna see some of my Demon Slayer inspired outfits that I'll be wearing to the movie theaters, I'm gonna be posting those on Instagram at HannahMalay and on X at lookingnerdy. But with that, that's gonna be it for today's video, and that's gonna be it for non-completely Demon Slayer related content until October, so I hope you enjoyed, but I'll see you all next time for some Infinity Castle stuff. Matane!